Okay, so welcome back. I am so excited to dig into another episode of the You Unlimited podcast. I've got Kimberlyn Harris with me today, and I am just so excited to dig in with her today. This has been a story that I've been desiring to tell with her since 2019. So I cannot wait to dig into this with her today. You guys are you're in for a real treat because this is truly one of those miracle moments, that how the two of us met, that it reminded me that there's something so much bigger at play. So to give you guys a little bit of background on Kimberlyn, so she's the founder of One Good Seed, which is a storytelling experience that seeks to inspire and connect. And she's also the founder of Artfully Healed. And so it's this nonprofit initiative where it really starts to showcase the healing power of art. And I'm excited for her to go into that a little bit deeper today, because I think there's so much beauty and expression and allowing ourselves to be healed through expression. And so on a personal note, so she's a mother of two adult boys. She's been living in Charlotte for a long time in a really powerful way. And so what she really, really loves is to create these safe spaces to really explore that intersection between mental health, creativity, and owning our joy and personal growth. So I'm so excited. Kimberlyn, I'm so excited you're here. I cannot wait to dig in.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited for this journey, that you have this place that you can share with others. And this story of ours is just like one that it's like a gift that just continues to give. And so I just celebrate that.
Me too. Well, let's dig in. So what I'm really excited about digging into today is we're going to be talking about the art of energetics and how manifestation works and how we both experienced this really powerful manifestation together. We didn't even know it was happening until suddenly it just was. And so I would love to just dial it back to 2019 when we first met. So we were on an airplane. So what were you experiencing before I walked onto this airplane? Because Kimberlyn was on the airplane before I was, and she's experiencing kind of a moment in time. So I want to kind of paint that picture of what she was experiencing, and then we'll kind of get into what happened next.
I think it's important to say that I had never flown Southwest before. The whole process of loading and seats was very unfamiliar to me. And I had my teenage niece with me. And because we did not have status, or we didn't have the priority lane, someone at the gate decided to just let us go through, because I guess he was considering her a child. And so they let us get on early. So
Nice.
which was a whole blessing in itself, because I was like, oh,
Yeah.
gee, like I was really worried for her, because I knew she did not want to sit by herself. And so I was really having that level of anxiety. So being able to go on early was just like a blessing. And so we were probably 3 or 4 rows back from the front of the plane, and she's at the window. I'm in the middle seat. We don't have a lot of bags, so there was plenty of bags above us, and the aisle seat was open. And I just had, based on my experience of any other airplane I've ever been on, the front of the plane on the aisle are kind of coveted seats.
Yep.
And I'm just talking with her, just hanging out. And it was only after dozens, and I mean dozens of people have now gone by, that I realized no one had taken the seat, because I don't think I was paying attention. I was just expecting someone to immediately take the seat. And then it just dawned on me. I started looking at people, because then now I'm like in tune or in line with the fact that people are not choosing the seat. Mm-hmm. So when I look up and I see people drawing to the plane, I see that they would look at the seat out of surprise, because it's still open. We're talking like 100 people have already boarded. And they'd look at me, they look at my niece, and then they would decide to keep going to the back of the plane. And I mean, like the back of the plane at that point. Mm-hmm. And that's when I kind of got in my feelings of like, what? Like, seriously? Like, I mean, I really got in my feelings, and I literally felt a God presence come on me, like a calming that said, the seat is being saved for someone special. And like in that moment, I just had immediate peace. Like, it wasn't like, oh my God, like, I wonder who. It wasn't like that. It was like, no, you don't need to worry about that. Like, that seat's being saved. You're fine. And it was just peace, and I didn't think any more about it. And then was just like, oh, okay. And that was literally when you showed up, still not connecting you to the special person. Mm-hmm. I recognized that happened. It was only like we hadn't even taken off yet before you were in tears. Like, I shared something and you were literally in tears. And that's when the connection of like, oh, that's why it's special. because I needed her and she needed me in this moment. So it wasn't a special for me. It was more like this is special because she needed it, but not what I needed. Like, and it was only when we connected and started talking and you came into tears that I really realized that it was like, no, it was us, not just you or
Yeah.
just me. So that's
Yeah.
my portion of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's wild is I've flown Southwest multiple times, but I've never had the experience of them going over the intercom and saying, Christina Deering, are you here? Can you board, please? Like to the point where I had just gotten back from this like incredible emotional intelligence weekend. And I was like on cloud nine. I mean, I was just elated on this high vibrational state of like, oh my God, anything's possible. And all of a sudden it's like I'm brought back down to earth and it's like, hey, PS, like board your flight or we're taking off. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what's happening? So I was actually the last person to board the flight. And so they were on the intercom sharing that with me. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. So I run to the gate and then I go to board and I walk on and I'm like looking around, like, why is this seat available? It's row 3 or 4. It's an aisle seat and there's room for my bag. Like this makes no sense, but also I'm living in possibility. And of course it's available. And of course this is amazing. And so I end up being like, is this seat taken? And you're like, no, I was beginning to think like, what's wrong with me? You know? And I'm like, oh, okay, amazing. Like, thank you, God. Thank you, universe. So then I sit down and we start talking. And this was a moment in my life where I was not really in touch with my feelings. I felt like I was starting to really allow myself to express for the first time in a very long time. So for me to have been brought to tears within 2 or 3 minutes of meeting you was like this, almost like this immediate, like soul's recognition that this is a safe space to be all of me and to be witnessed in my grief. Because I know that in that moment in time, I was moving through a lot of grief and a lot of sadness. My dog had just passed away. It felt like she was my child. So anyone who's ever had a dog that sleeps in your bed, that just you snuggle like they're your firstborn, to me, it honestly felt like my child had died. And so I don't even know how we got on that subject, but it was this really beautiful opening that you allowed me to just feel into that. And then I knew that it was safe to express and that it was okay to just be me. And I just remember being like, you're an actual angel on earth. Like, I'm so grateful that God connected us in this moment. And I remember it being like, did we just become best friends when I looked over and you had this like law of attraction journal out? And I'm like, of course. So it was so powerful for me too, within just instantaneously, like the seat, the opening, but then the person. I was like, oh, that's why I'm here. Like this was divinely orchestrated for the two of us to come together in a really powerful way.
Yeah, I'm still working through the dog issue. So hopefully I'll get to the other side of that soon. But I had just had a session not too long. I'm not sure what brought on the topic itself. I think you did share about your dog or something happened. And so it's like you kind of said something, but it was a moment of sorry. You're like apologizing. I'm apologizing for feeling this way because I'm just having, and I said, no, I said, don't do that because, and I shared my experience that I had recently had a session with my energy healer where she visibly saw a dog come out of my spirit. And I had never shared with her that I had lost a dog when I was younger. She said, did you have a dog? And I was like, yes. And that shocked me because I'm like, how did she know? And then she described the dog. And then she said, you were never allowed to grieve this dog. And this is when I'm like 13 years old. And I have been struggling with wanting a dog or, deciding if I wanted to have a dog. And I have been moving through that quite a bit. And so all these dog conversations were happening at the time. And I'm like, I got it. I'm supposed to get a dog. So you were just another yes in that journey for me of like, this is for you and this is meant for you. So I was coming from a place I was never allowed to grieve for my own dog and carried it for years. So no, don't apologize. Actually embrace it, like embrace it fully. So I was happy to be around when you were able to get your next dog and, walking through that and how amazing that was. And so I'm glad to see that you were able, but no, that was something I was not allowed to do. And I could not in good conscience, like allow you to apologize for feeling that way. And I was like, absolutely not. And I think that's when you have permission to just like fully accept the fact that you felt that way. I think that it was an amazing moment.
Yeah. That was really, I felt that. It was so powerful for me, that opening that you provided. And you know what was really interesting, just as hearing you speaking, this just kind of came into my awareness for the first time. I didn't grieve my childhood dog ever. It's a very
Hmm.
interesting story because, so I'm laughing out of just like, it's just so interesting. My parents put down our childhood dog, but I think as a way of protecting us, they just said that he ran away. So my expectation was actually my dog is still alive. And I kind of held on to that forever until I believe that Lady passed away, who was our dog. And this, as I was older, the one that had just died in 2019. And I didn't, it's like I had this fairy tale, like, oh, dogs live forever or whatever it was, where it's just like I never got to grieve. I was kind of attached to like, that doesn't even happen. Like dogs don't die. I don't even know. It's like this childhood
Mm,
perspective of like not grieving and not really understanding what happened. And so you saying that is actually having me realize probably why it hit even more deeply than I even recognized, was because it probably felt like I was grieving both at the same time.
yeah. Wow, that's something.
Mm,
That's a lot. Mm.
yeah. Whoo! Goodness. Wow. So this episode, naturally, just like us, is taking a turn on it in its own right, which is so symbolic of, and I'm going to be sharing it later, a couple episodes. I just had two miscarriages. So it's very
Mm.
interesting, the symbolism that's happening, the two releases and the deaths and the things of that nature, and how I really let myself feel in a way that I've never let myself feel before, like the permission that I didn't really give myself back in 2019 to now these losses that I really let myself go to the depths of hell to experience and to also grieve and release. And so I'm going to be sharing a lot more about that, but I just want to say like one of the most powerful lessons that I've ever received is the feeling is the healing. So the fact that you opened that up for me back in 2019 and where I've come now today, I mean, the feeling truly is the healing. We have to let ourselves feel these moments of grief, this sadness. Like it's so imperative to our health and to our vitality and to just to all of it, mind, body, spirit, feel it to really allow it to move through us, to receive the wisdom that's underneath it and the connection points that happen through grief as well. Like we connected through grief in a very interesting way. And so I think that there's so much beauty and connection and compassion that actually happens through the grieving process.
First of all, I want to say that I am deeply touched that you chose to share something very personal during this time that we have together. One of the things that I've been tasked to as recently is creating gift boxes or tokens of gift specifically around loss.
Mm,
And it just keeps coming back over and over and over and over. And even more recently, I met someone who does some gifting around dogs, and we were talking, and where she was saying, another avenue as far as gifting could be around people that have lost their pets.
mm,
And that's something that I'm going to bring online as well. And then one of the other topics, when I've mentioned this to a few people on the list, are when I talk about difficult occasions, miscarriage is one. I've also suffered one as well. And someone brought that up. And so on my list, and so just as we were talking before you said that, I had wrote down, again, gift boxes for loss. But I think it's just something I want to be able to send you something just to let you know I see you, I feel you. I don't have an answer. I don't have a why, but you are seen and you are loved. And I think that's just so needed right now. And so thank you for universe for another ping
mm,
to get it done, get it
mm,
done because people need these things. They need these things, these small tokens of
mm.
just small tokens of love. So
Yes.
thank you for it. Thank you. Okay. Got it. Got it.
Yeah, yeah, so
Got it.
powerful because that resonated so deeply with my soul to just have something that said, it doesn't make sense, but I see you. That in and of itself was the thing that got me through these experiences. And it's still a process too. But I had a friend who just came over just to give me a hug. She's like, I just completely unannounced, just knocked on the door and was like, can I just give you a hug? And I just like burst into tears. And that feels like a hug in some way, that gift of just like, my heart is with you. It doesn't make sense, but I'm sending you so much love and I see you in this. I'm witnessing you in that. And I'm a safe space for you to land. So I'm getting kind of choked up. I'm so grateful that this came through as that I could mirror that to you. That really matters. And that would really change the experience of grief and the beauty of community coming together around these moments that bring us to our knees.
Well, you just gave me my saying. I said, I'm working on some things that are going to go in the box. And so I like that my heart is with you.
Mm. Well, oh my gosh. This is how, just by the way, guys, we're peeling back the curtain. This is how all of our conversations go. We'll like talk about something and then all of a sudden it's like this deep realization just from back and forth. And like, I mean, the depths that we go with each other. And it's just like so incredible. I mean, I'm just like the universe so divinely aligned me with this incredible soul. And I'm so glad to be able to share her with you guys that are tuning in because she's just so incredible. And I'm so grateful for just the awareness that comes from us just like going back and forth and just opening up those little like moments of I see you and here's your validation. It's almost like God uses us to really validate what the other is experiencing without us even knowing it too. It's really powerful. I love it. I love it. So something I wanted to share too on that note, I wanted to go a little bit into the energetics perspective. Like when we think about the airplane, the thing that brought us together, and I was thinking about it from there's just an infinite level of infinite amount of realities that I feel like are happening. So if I could just go into this from an energetics perspective of why I believe that even unfolded so that we could have discussions like this, so that we could be the mirrors for each other to say like, do that thing. The world needs it without us even realizing we're doing that. And so to even dial it back to like how I think this unfolded, in my mind, my truth that I feel like I've just come to know, and believe me, our truth can change in an instant. It's all about like whatever feels most true to us in the moment. So for me, my truth is there's an infinite number of realities that are happening. And because I was operating at such a high frequency, and so was Kimberlyn, and so she was operating at this beautifully high frequency, I believe that seat was divinely orchestrated for the two of us. It's almost as if it was either like invisible or it was not on the frequency of the other people that were walking by it. And so it was this beautiful coming together. I feel like there was some fate that was happening there as well. But I think there's something to realize that because there's all these infinite levels of reality, I believe that that's also what had us come together because you're such a high vibrational person. And I was coming off of that high of that weekend. And I'm, for the most part, a very high vibrational person too. So it really feels like we were operating on the same frequency such that that chair was available for me to sit down in right next to you. And so I think there's something to be said about the energetics of things at play in a really powerful way. I've seen this happen in the opposite end of the spectrum. Like there are people that I know that they're like, their car is consistently vandalized and things of that nature. And it's because they have this law of assumption that their car is not safe and that they think something's going to happen. And so their things and who they are and all the things that their energy is connecting to is operating on this frequency that's actually matching someone else who's there to vandalize it in a really interesting way. And so I believe there's this interesting dynamic at play when we think about the energetics of everything, that everything truly is energy. And I think there's something really powerful to think about when we really connect to our own energy. We're getting guided and connected to miracles so that miracles really can unfold, or being guided and connected to moments that aren't so great. But those moments are simply teaching us where we're out of alignment. And what it's doing is it's actually opening up to a possibility of something different. Now, whether or not someone leans into that is totally up to them, right? But that's just something that I've come to know in my own life. And does that resonate as true for you? Is there anything you would add to like the energetics conversation?
So, because for me, my journey, really my awakening started with clutter. And, the phrase that I termed was release to receive. And so I was releasing physically, but spiritually, emotionally, across the board. I was leaning into that since 2016, this understanding that I had to be able to release what no longer served me so that I can make room for things that do. Right. So being able to tap into that on a constant basis meant there are a lot of things left. It was when the things that started showing up that I understood and was able to have more peace with the process, because clutter in itself, the physical clutter, is very challenging if you don't know why you're keeping it, right? but also clutter and dysfunctional relationships and dysfunctional things. Also, if you don't know why they're there, you don't understand why it's important for you to release them. So I was also, that's the energy that I was operating off of for a couple of years. So I had to really walk into the space of things that arrive or things that are meant to be in the space are meant to be in the space. And that I had to be willing to not undermine, manipulate the situation to attract those things, and that they just happen naturally. I can't remember necessarily a moment so powerful as the one that we had, because that was in itself just its own thing. But that moment itself is also the culmination of all the work that I've seen, and also the foundation of when I feel the most frustrated about things that have not shown up. I literally can look to that moment because I remember physically sitting there in that seat being so offended, seeing people look at me, look at my 16-year-old beautiful niece who's not doing, she just wants to sit by the window, right? And the seat available, and making the decision, I don't want to sit here at the front of the plane with you. I took that so personally. And the understanding on the other side, if it's kind of like if I knew what was coming on the other side, whatever it is, would I be okay with what's not there right now? And being told I'm saving the seat was the only thing that gave me peace in that moment. But now I have the experience that gives me peace. I don't have to be told that anymore. I have that literally the example of me sitting there in that seat looking at people. And now I understand now when sometimes there's a vacancy, there's a reason. So that immediately gives me peace. I don't have to wait for the message to come because I had that example. But that was a foundational for me that really taught me the understanding of that energetically. And also what you tapped into that I think I tap into now is in that moment, I was the person in my heart that was ready to receive you. And so when there's a vacancy now, I ask universe, God, help my heart to be the person that's going to attract what it is that you meant to have in this seat or whatever that is. Because in that moment, working off of what I was working off of, working what you were working off of, we both were ready, right, collectively to have a conversation that literally took off before the plane even took off. And we talked literally till the plane landed at the gate.
Yes. Which I'm
Yes,
usually like,
literally.
book. Yeah.
So I think for me, like energetically, I can't deny it, but it also keeps healing me over and over and over again, because I understand that when it's aligned, and there's nothing I can do.
I feel like that's so powerful what you're speaking into, because there's so often when we're manifesting things like money, more clients, whatever it is that we're manifesting, our soulmate, whatever it is we're manifesting, and there's that impatience, or we take it really personally, like, what's wrong with me? Why isn't anyone sitting here? Like that moment in time, or why isn't the person saying yes? And that really powerful realization of like, what if I really am creating space for something so magnificent to unfold, that if I just allow myself just a little bit more to connect? Because what I'm hearing you say is, in those moments of fear, or those moments of where I was taking it personally, or those moments where I was like, why does it feel like it's not unfolding the way I desire for it to? You channeled, you opened yourself up to connect to what is the universe, God's source desire for me to know right now. And then it dropped in. You're saving this seat for something, for someone special. And then you realize, okay, I can open palm that and I can receive it. Versus when we're in the resistance or we're in the frustration, it makes it feel like it's happening so much longer, versus knowing this is open because the divinely aligned soul is going to drop in here, or this is open because this is going to start flooding towards me. And if I can just pass the 11th hour, that's going to take me into really being able to receive my manifestation. And so I think that's what's so powerful, that I think a lot of people forget, is connect to the spiritual realm, ask for the guidance. Why isn't this unfolding the way that I want it to? Really like connecting into like, ooh, there's something bigger at play here. Can I actually, is this opening up a deeper level of trust for me?
Right.
Yeah. Incredible. So you kind of touched on this. So the idea of like How would you describe manifestation and how has it supported you in your life? So you kind of just touched on that, but I'd love to see if there's anything else that's coming through as like, oh, I kind of describe manifestation as this, and here's how it's really played a significant role in my life now.
Well, I'm just going to give a really real example because I seen it so much, but I think this is it's funny, but it's real.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved to a new town, it's a small suburb of Charlotte, and I had to find all new personal services. So nail people, hair people, because everything is it's like 30 minutes away from where my house was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had found a nail, and I moved into a place where there was a nail place literally walking distance. So I thought that was perfect. I could not get an appointment with these people. And finally I called. I had got one appointment one time. It was okay. Went back to go do something else. And I called and they were like, oh, sorry, we don't have an appointment for like 2 weeks. But we have this Tuesday at 10 a.m. appointment. And I'm like, I was so fired up. Like, how dare you there are working people. Like, who has Tuesday at 10 a.m. appointments? Like, what? Like, I was really feeling targeted at that point. I just took it personal. And when I hung up, I just sat there with a second and I had my 5 minutes. And then I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Somebody in this community needs Tuesday at 10 a.m. appointments. I don't know why. I don't know who. But instead of being mad at the people for offering a service for the people that are in the community that need it, why don't you try to be one of those people that can take a Tuesday at 10 a.m. appointment? Right? Work on your working lifestyle, what you're doing that would allow you to live in a space of having midday personal appointments. Work on that energy. That's what you can work on. That's the part that you can control. And it's Friday, 2:32 p.m. Eastern, and I'm on a call with you in the middle of my work day. Right? I worked on the version of me that could find work, do work, have an amazing opportunity where I get to have personal appointments when I need to during the week, during the day, whatever that looks like in 2 short years, right? Because I took the opportunity to say, okay, I don't like how that feels. Instead of being mad at them, what is it that I need to do to operate in that space if that's so that's what I'm asking, right? Which now I do. So that for me is manifestation of like, make sure you're manifesting the right thing, right? But come from a place of I wasn't asking for more appointments in the evening to accommodate my schedule. I was asking for wrap my whole life around the thing that I'm saying. My life needs to represent this in a way that fully supports me, but also allows me the freedom to be able to take advantage of these things. And so for me, asking for the right thing and believing for it, right? And believing I had to change. The job situation didn't change. I was the one that had to believe that it was possible and open myself up to the version of me that could step into what I'm doing now, which didn't exist 2 years ago. This version of me didn't exist that was fully on board with the work that I'm doing now. I kept saying, no, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can do that. I don't think I have the faith to do that. So I had to work on the version of me that stepped into what I'm doing now, which now gives me the liberties that I said that I wanted to manifest. So that's my version of what I look at in manifestation.
Yes.
Like from beginning to end, right? Very simple, but I'm living that out right now.
That's a really powerful example. And what I love is that you sourced it so that you could find more freedom instead of having it turn into that. And we all have the 5 minutes, like you said, we get to like actually let the 5 minutes run and be like, okay, I feel like so frustrated and all the things. But then you're like, what is this resistance teaching me? Ooh, that I want some more freedom in my day, that I desire to be that person on Tuesday at 10 a.m. that can get her nails done. So how powerful that you source this uncomfortable situation at first to then realize, wait a minute, why am I not even putting myself in that category? How can I create more freedom such that I'm the person who's able to say yes to the Tuesday at 10? So it's so powerful. And that is true how so much of our manifestations that happen and come to fruition, we're going to meet resistance because it's teaching us what our next greatest breakthrough is. And so I always say when you hit the wall, it's not there to say, stay here. It's there to teach you what's my next greatest breakthrough? How can I break this down? And so I think that's what's so powerful is we meet our edges because we're meant to break them down versus confine back into the space. So when you meet the edginess or the resistance or the frustration, lean in, get curious, exactly as you did to say, like, what is this teaching me? And how can I actually shift so that my reality is more in alignment with who I desire to be? Powerful. Amazing. So I'm curious. So, a huge part of manifestation too is healing. So it's not just, and we were just talking about, how you had to heal some things that were in the way of what you were wanting to manifest. You also have this incredible, initiative, Artfully Healed, where you really lean into the healing power of art. So how have you personally used art to heal? Just out of curiosity, because I think that's a really powerful modality that sometimes people forget how powerful it can be to lean into our creation, to lean into our expression. And so, how have you personally used art to heal?
Artfully Healed was born through a very stressful time in my career, just because I just used art on the weekends just to come down. So it was very practical in a sense of this feels really good from the week that I've had. And I literally remember saying, how can I create a lifestyle of creativity more like this, just not just on Saturdays?
Yeah.
And that was, I said that in my office at my house, 30 miles from here. That was an office, and I had some art things in there, but it wasn't fully art. And when Artfully Hill was born, I was going to work with other artists because I didn't actually have a practicing art. Like I did stuff, but I didn't have anything that I could sell. I didn't have anything I did on a regular basis. That was 2017. So 7 years later, I'm in my art studio, right? So it was an invitation of, I don't want to just create art and just create art on the weekend. I want to be able to sell it. I want to be able to make it, sell it, teach it. And I now can hold sessions and I can be the artist, which is like, I didn't even think when I created it, I didn't think I was going to be the artist. And I look at Artfully Healed, and when I talk about the pillars of your creativity, is that it doesn't have to be what I do. It doesn't have to be drawing. It doesn't have to be artistic in nature. It can be whatever that looks like. It could be whatever something in you that you feel you suppress, you think is trivial, you think is, oh, it's just a little thing. It's like, I'm going to lean into something that's an expression of myself, that's a natural expression, as a way to help, give myself another pillar of wellness. Because I think spirituality, I think holisticness, I think physical wellness, your mental wellness, all those things are pillars, and creativity is just another pillar. Drawing and coloring and all these things are things that people use creatively to help relax. And it's just known to be able to be an outlet that's very simple in nature that helps you kind of get outside of your normal. And for me, being able to fine tune the things that I feel right now, my things are around joy. I have fought for my joy. I am unapologetic about my joy. And what I'm looking at now, and I call my village that I'm going to be branding is basically the Joyful Voyager. So it's basically permission that joy is a journey, right? It's a voyage, and it's okay for it to be how it needs to be, but it's just keep going. It's permission to just keep going. And for me, it's discovering what the things that I like to create and do and fine tuning that a little bit more. But I also like to mentor in this space, which is what makes this different for me, is because not only have I found my own creative practice in just the doing, but also I've encouraging other people to lean into that more too. So more to come on that, because it's still kind of, bubbling to the surface, but I am now a practicing artist. And when I birthed this vision, I was not. So,
You know what I think is so powerful about what you were just expressing is I feel like sometimes when we have a spiritual awakening, we can sometimes lean really heavy into the healing that we forget that healing can actually be really fun and expressive and exciting and joyful and all of these things. And so I think there's so much beauty in, like you were saying, getting the paintbrush, getting the, getting the pencils out, getting whatever it is that you're desiring to use, your voice, singing, dancing, expression, art, it's all art. And so whatever tool brings the most joy to you, opening yourself up to that and knowing that we don't have to be like the furthest along for us to consider ourselves an artist. Like if we feel expressed and joyful, follow that art. It's uniquely yours for a reason, and deeply follow that. Let it unfold, see where it takes you. Let it be one foot in front of the other, but just simply doing it for joy's sake, like to really say like, I'm just doing it to create more joy. There's so much beauty in how much that raises our vibration, how we're able to actually bring in our manifestations faster. But all of that kind of falls to the wayside because we're just in so much joy that none of it even matters. And then all of a sudden, more miracles unfold. And I just think it's so beautiful that you leaned into this, you created a space for it, and you found your own art through it. And so I think that's what's so beautiful about what you've created, is that you've now found yourself even more, your joy even more in that spaciousness that you made.
I love that.
Yeah, so powerful. I love it. Well, I know that people tuning into this are going to want to learn more about all of the things that you've created, Artfully Healed, all of these beautiful spaces that you've created, and these care packages. I cannot wait to see how that unfolds. I will be using that 100%. So where can people find you? Where can they connect with you?
So on IG, I am Kimblyn, so spelled out, I am Kimblyn. And I know you're going to probably drop some show notes with some other links to One Good Seed and Artfully Healed. And one of the things I want to share about the gift boxes, they're called Leaving Room. The candles are called Leaving Room, and they're different scents. And so what I imagine in the graphics of Leaving Room are words: forgiveness, healing, peace, abundance. It's in this moment of grief, specifically around grief, right? But in other moments. So in this moment of grief, I know you're walking into this with this enormous thing we call grief. Will you leave a little room for hope, right? It's an invitation. Will you leave a little room for hope? Will you leave a little room for forgiveness? Will you leave a little room for love? And so many things come from just this thing that was gifted to me. And I do want to share that it came to me through coffee, because I drink black coffee. And always when I order, they say, do you want to leave room for cream? And I always say no, because I drink my coffee black. And one day after I was leaving the coffee shop, I really felt God say, maybe you need to leave a little room for cream. And it just dropped totally in my spirit of like, there's something sweet in the leaving room part, that it's an invitation to just leave room for something else. And so I want to create spaces for leaving room, because I want people to come with whatever, but I want them to leave room for the unexpected and wants to meet them there. And these gift boxes are basically just a little token of, a reminder, an invitation, right? I see you, I hear you. And while you are having all of these feelings, please leave room for these little things. And so that's what the gift boxes will represent. I cannot wait. Every time I show up, I feel like I got it. I got it. I got it. Okay, we got to go. I got it. So thank you.
That is, you've got me in tears, because I'm like, that is so beautifully created. It's just everything that Kimberlyn does is so thoughtful. And I'm so excited to be able to purchase these for people in my life, to leave a little bit of room. It's so symbolic. I'm telling you, you've got me in tears over here, because it says everything without having to say much at all, which is sometimes exactly what we need, is just a little bit of silence to find the room, to feel the peace again, and to feel the joy again, and to know that there's someone who's thinking of us in a really beautiful and powerful way. So from the depths of my soul, I love you. I'm so grateful for you, for our friendship, for God bringing us together, for everyone who's listening in to be able to experience some of this magic. I hope you receive something so beautiful from this space. And I'm so, so, so grateful for everyone who's tuned in. If you loved this, feel free to screenshot it, tag us, share with us your favorite moment, and we would absolutely love to hear from you. So Kimblyn, thank you so much for being here. Truly, from the depths of my soul. Thank you. Thank you.
Love you.
I love you too.